Hi, Titans. It's Miss Arthofer. So I wanted to talk about a couple of things first before we get started. Period 1, 3, and 5. I do need to go over an older homework with you, and when I see you tomorrow on Wednesday, we will do that. Specifically, it was this homework from Friday here. So please be patient with me there, and I will take any questions that you might have from that homework when I see you tomorrow. And as well, I'm going to go over last night's homework quickly on the slide here, but I will take more questions, period 1, 3, and 5, if you have those for number 3. So this is tonight's homework. See how the date here is 9/1. So I'm having a lot of difficulty pushing in slides into your workbook. So I'm going to need you to create a slide, and it's real easy. So I need you to update your table of contents. So that means you're typing in this information. And when you're in your actual slide folder, right, then you use up here in the top left over by file, this little plus sign. It's always on the top left. That means you can add a slide to your workbook. And then you're going to go ahead and upload that image of each of these assignments in that order. Okay. All right, we're going to move on. So this was the homework from Monday, page 27, 84 to 87 all. Here's the answers. So this first one, the answer is all real numbers. It's classified as identity. So remember, I gave you a hint on the slide during the lecture. There are 2 things for this work. Solve it for either one answer, all real number answer, or a no solution answer. And you can see here we've got one of everything. So for the one answer, you should have this one for number 85, x is equal to 0. And you know, I put that one on there on purpose, and it's in your text on purpose to get you ready for college. 0 is a number. It's a valid answer, just as well as x is equal to 32 or whatever. I mean, you don't have any issue with those kind of answers. So x is equal to 0 is a valid answer. So that would be conditional. So remember, when you get an answer, it's conditional. So then there were 2 all real number answers, and they're classified then as an identity. And then there was 1 no solution answer. That's what this symbol means. And then that's a contradiction. Okay, when I see you in class, we can go over those, or, well, by the time you're listening to this, we probably already have, except for periods 1, 3, and 5. I will take your questions then. But basically, you should just be careful before I do see. If you didn't get those answers, do make sure that you filled in your hidden 1 here. You filled in a hidden -1 here. Make sure that you just, have done distributive property and brought this number down after you did 12x plus 3. Make sure you distributed a -1 to each of these items. Make sure you distributed a -2 to each of these items. A lot of times this is the one that we get wrong. A -2 times a 4 should be a -8. Okay, periods 1, 3, and 5, I will go over those 2 homeworks with you when I see you on Wednesday. Okay, moving on. Okay, here's the agenda. Please remember that you can hit pause at any time during this video. So we're moving on to section 1.5. So that means you should have already written a summary at the bottom of your paper for 1.3. Check. Did you do that? So you're going to answer the essential question from 1.3 and make sure that you did the summary. Okay, if you don't have the white notebook that has all the pre-printed notes, I put a link on Google Classroom for you to download those notes. And again, hopefully those are coming from the printer. I do have another new student, 2 of them. So you need to see me because all of these notes are pre-printed in a book. And I just need you to pick that up from campus as soon as they come in from the printer. We ran out. Okay, so your essential question for section 1.5 goes on the top of your notebook, and we are on page 9. So you're going to write this essential question at the top. What is the difference between solving a formula versus just a regular equation? In this case, we're working on linear equations. So what's the difference between solving a formula versus an equation? And then you'll have homework tonight. If you are having difficulty with this homework, go back and look at your notes. Your homework will always follow along with your notes. Okay, here are the steps. I want you to read the question to find what letter to solve for. So everything is about reading the question. Then you're going to use inverse operations. That just means opposite operation. So you're going to use inverse operations to isolate the letter. Solve for the letter. Solve for X, solve for Y, solve for T, solve for L, solve for W. Okay, and then at the end, you need to state your final answer from the left to the right, just like we're regularly solving. Like you write X equals 14. You don't write 14 equals X. That's what we would consider like backwards. Not that it's wrong, but we read from the left to the right. So when you do your answers today, I want you to make sure that you solve so that your final answer reads properly from left to right. You can hit pause while you're writing this down. I'm going to move on. Okay, so everything on your notes has this left side for related equation. So this kind of problem should make you happy. Oh, I know what to do there. And then it's similar to this problem. It has just a lot of letters, and it tells you what letter to solve for. So how we solve this problem, c equals 2 pi r, is the same as we would solve over here. So I'm trying to relate it back to what you already know. Okay, so I'm asking you, for example 1, do you know what this formula is for? C equals 2 pi r. It's a geometry formula. Do you know what that represents? If you don't, it's the circumference of a circle. So it's a blast from the past. Okay, so how would we solve this one? Wouldn't you divide by 2 on both sides? You always solve by whatever number is in front of the variable. So x would equal 25. And then, of course, that's written backwards. And so that's what I meant in the steps. Please go ahead and write it properly, which would be this way. All right. So how do we get x alone? We divided by 2. This one says, read the question, solve for r. Everything is being multiplied, right? Just like this one, there's a little multiply dot in there. So how do you undo that multiply? You divide on both sides. I need to get r alone, so I need to divide by the 2, and I need to divide by pi. Pi divided by pi cancels. It's okay to divide by pi. If you divide on this side by 2 pi, you have to divide on that side by 2 pi. So 2 pi's over 2 pi's cancels, r is equal to, and there's your final answer, the circumference of the circle divided by 2 pi's. So state your final answer the proper way, nice and neat. There you go. So to undo the multiply, you just divide. And in this case, it's okay to divide by pi as well. Okay, so here's another related equation. Oh, look, oh my goodness gracious, that's a fraction. So does this one. This is being multiplied 1/2 times x, right? So is this one. Do you remember what this is? Area equals 1/2 the base times the height. So that is the area of a what? Remember? What's the area of a triangle? Okay, well, when we get to that, we're going to isolate b. So over here, we need to isolate x. So what do you do when a fraction is being multiplied by x? You multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Because what happens? What's 2 times 1 on the top? What's 1 times 2 on the bottom? Isn't that 2 times 1 is 2? 1 times 2 is 2, isn't 2 over 2? Cancel, and you're just left with x. So the reciprocal cancels, because you can see it there. It's 2 over 2. 2 divided by 2 is just 1x. And over here, oops, sorry. And over here, 2 times 40 is just 80. And then write it properly. There's your final answer. So let's do the same procedure over here. We still have another fraction that's being multiplied. So let's multiply by the reciprocal. So that's the procedure when you have to, the inverse operation for when you need to eliminate a fraction. So this cancels. This would be 2a's. And please leave them as capital A's because the capitalization matters in mathematics and science. A is known for the area, the word area. And then it's b times h. That's left on the right side. So refer to your notes. It says to solve for b, to get b alone. So this is multiplying b times h. So to undo that, we would divide by the letter on both sides, because h divided by h cancels to just 1. And then here's your answer. It's 2 of the areas divided by the height. That's what the base would be equal to. And then please flip it over so it's read properly from the left to the right. Okay, moving on. Okay, so this says solve the following formula used in shipping. So here's a related equation. It has an x and a y and a number. This has a w, an h, and l equal to a p. So you want to read the directions. We're going to solve for h. This one doesn't have the directions on it. Sorry, I have a bit of a typo there. Just a minute so I can note that typo so I can fix it for next year. Okay, so here we go. If we were to solve 4x plus 3y equals 2 to solve that for y, you did that when you were graphing lines. We'll be doing a ton of that in chapter 2. So that means we want to get this alone. So that means we have to pop this over. So I'm going to move this to the other side. This would cancel. 3y would come down. You can't combine something with an x with a 2. These are not like terms, so you just bring them straight down. And then you would divide on both sides by 3. Now, there's plenty of times where we're going to want you to change the looks of this side, but for this particular chapter, this is just fine. You've done what it says. You solved for y. So we're going to do the same thing here. Oh, that just really is aggravating, isn't it? So we're going to solve for h. We need this alone. So we're going to draw our line. I need to get this term alone. Well, right now I need to pop over 2w, just like over here we popped over 4x. And I also need to pop over the L. So 2w's. Oh, you guys, I'm so sorry. I need my other board. So 2w's minus 2w's. So I'm going to put that on this side as well. 1 capital L. Subtract the capital L. So 2w's minus 2w's cancels, L minus L cancels. I'm just going to bring this down. 2h is equal to, and then you just write the whole thing. P minus 2w's minus L. That's the height, the width, and the length. Remember, this is for shipping, so they're probably talking about boxes, right? Length, width, and height of boxes. Okay, to undo this multiply that's right here, we just divide. Make sure this division bar is really big. And you're done. This is the final answer. Okay, pay attention. Those of you who think you can cancel because you can't, do not cancel 2 over 2. If you're going to divide by 2, you have to divide each item by 2. And there's no number except the hidden 1 in front of the P and the L. Do not try and cancel that. It doesn't work because you would have to divide each item by 2. Okay? So I know a lot of you want to do that. That's not the correct procedure there. We're going to skip this problem. We're skipping example 4. I thought I put notes in here for this. We're skipping this problem. And we're going to do this one. Okay, for example 6, do you remember what the perimeter, 2 lengths plus 2 of the widths? Perimeter of a rectangle. Remember? 2 of the lengths, 2 of the widths, 2 of these, 2 of these. If you add them up, you get the perimeter, right? Okay, so read your directions, solve for W. So I need to isolate this item. Okay, well, I need to get this item alone, so I have to pop this over. So I'm going to subtract 2 L's. It's best to use a cursive L here. So 2 L's minus 2 L's would cancel. And this just needs to be, you just write it down, P minus 2L, P minus 2L, and then the equal sign. Remember to bring down equals. 2 W's. So the perimeter minus 2 times the length is equal to 2 times the width. We need to get W alone. So remember, we're undoing that multiply, so divide both sides by 2. And then we're going to write this properly. W is equal to P minus 2 L's over 2. W equals P minus 2L over 2. I was just reading it backwards. Okay, moving on. So we're going to skip this one. I remembered to put my little box there. I just forgot to put it on the other ones. Yeah, I'm getting there. So we're skipping this one. And we have this last one. This is a 2-step problem. We're going to solve something, and then we're going to find out a value. So this equation is called a literal equation. And so it says to solve for y. So we're going to draw a line through here. We're going to pop this item over. So subtract 5x. Remember, this is a positive 5x. This subtract or negative sign goes to the 4. So remember, 5x minus 5x. I get a lot of students who will pick this up and try and take that sign to the left. But no, this right over here is negative 4. This is positive 5x. So I'm going to subtract 5x to both sides. That cancels. Be careful, that's an embedded negative. Make sure you bring it down with the 4. And then I'm just going to write 9 minus 5x. And then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. And we wouldn't normally leave a negative in the denominator. We would have to pop that to the front and add parentheses. But in this particular section, we're just not doing any extra steps really for simplification. Okay, so we just solved this literal equation for y, so that was step 1. Now we're going to do step 2. find how much y is worth when you plug in x is -3. So you're going to plug it in. Right? So y will be equal to 9 minus, and right here, we're going to plug in x is equal to -3, right here. So 5 times the -3. So take out x, and I put in -3 all over -4. Follow the PEMDAS rules. Do not do 9 minus 5 is 4. Don't do that first. You want to do this part because you do multiplication in PEMDAS first. So 9, and then what's -5 times -3? It's positive 15 all over -4. So y would equal, so what's 9 plus 15 is 24 divided by -4, which equals -6. So what that says is when x is -3, y is -6, and that's actually something we could put on a t-chart and start graphing a line for. Okay, so I'm going to help you with your summary today. So what's the difference between solving a formula versus solving an equation? So when we solved for a formula, touchy little thing, come on. Come on, come on. There we go. There we go. So what's the difference between solving a formula versus an equation? So what is the answer to that question for your summary? So you're going to need to write your summary because I'm going to be collecting your notes as well. So what's the difference between that? So when we solve for a formula, doesn't that, it yields a what or gives? Yields mean gives. Solve for a formula yields an answer with letters, not an answer with just numbers, like y equals -6, right? So when we solve for this, we still have y and x. So solving for a formula yields an answer. You have a bunch of letters still in the answer, right? C equals 2 pi r. We still ended up with C over 2 pi is equal to r. So when you solve the formula, you have this answer with a bunch of letters in it, not just an answer that says, oh, y is -6, right? Okay, so make sure you write the answer to your summaries. It's usually 1 or 2 sentences in this math class. Okay, this is your homework. I can move this. So you have to read it. There's a little comma. P equals E times I. Solve it for E. This one, I is equal to PRT. Solve it for R. And it tells you what the formula is for. Here's a physics formula. I think you might need to change this up a little. This is the same as 1R mv squared. That looks a little bit more like your homework. So you can multiply both sides. You're solving for m. Multiply both sides by the reciprocal. All right. So this one looks a little bit better if we put 1 over r. This one solve for t. So you're going to pop this over, and you're just going to divide by a decimal. Don't let that throw you. It's just a decimal number. So there's one just like all of these in the homework. This one too, it's just a big long one, solve for w. This one, just solve it for y. You don't have to do the extra step of plugging something in. And this one is to solve for L. We solved it before for W. This is not true. I moved this for you. Okay. Okay, periods 1, 3, and 5. I will get caught up with you with the past 2 homeworks. So make sure your papers are handy when I see you tomorrow. And all of you need to upload your homework to your digital workbook. I loaded everything in for all the classes. If you need any help with that, I need you to email me, and I'm going to set up, if I don't see your work in there, I'm going to set up um, an appointment with you because you have to turn it in. I'm going to be grading heavily this week, and part of what I'm grading is your homework. So I need you to be keeping up with your homework. It's 25% of your grade. Okay? It's the one thing you can do for yourself to get through this class, to prepare yourself for college, university, ASVAB testing for the military, is to stay up with this class. Thanks, guys. I hope you have a great day.